All right, looks like it's about 1 o'clock. And hello, everyone, and welcome to our Facebook Live that we have today. I'm RG Ernest at the Low Income Taxpayer Clinic of Legal Aid of Arkansas, and I'm here today with another one of our legal aid attorneys, Susan Pirtle, who's with our consumer group. Susan and I want to alert you to a change at the IRS that could impact you if you want to receive your IRS refunds by paper check instead of getting them by direct deposit. The IRS has announced that it will stop paying refunds by paper check. And so, in a moment, Susan is going to talk about what you can do if you do not have a bank account. But for starting out, I'm just going to try to fill everyone in on the details about this change and why you may want to just be aware of it. So starting in the 2026 filing season, the IRS is generally prohibited from mailing paper checks to taxpayers claiming a refund. So you must use a direct deposit, and that means that you must have bank account. Um, so this change has been implemented by an executive order, but the IRS at this point has not really provided us with many details about the change and about how it's going to be implemented. The good news is that most Americans have bank accounts, or most taxpayers in the U.S. have bank accounts. The bad news is that many of the American taxpayers who need tax refunds the most are the ones who do not have bank accounts. And so for now, I'm going to turn it over to Susan to talk briefly about the pros and cons about this change. And Susan, I'll just hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you. The cons are that many people who need the refunds the most are going to experience delays because they're going to get ready to file and they're going to find out that they have to have a bank account or some other account to put their refund in. And for many, there are barriers to getting a bank account, a no fee or low cost financial service because they've had trouble with this in the past. They may owe money to a bank. Um, the pros are that it's more efficient. You're probably going to get your refund faster, wouldn't you say, RG? If
Yeah,
you
I
do.
think that's right.
Uh-huh. And also there's less opportunity for fraud. The paper checks create an opportunity to be lost or stolen and or fraud, people cashing them without permission. And so this is gonna kind of take that away.
Yeah, I think that's right, Susan. So, um, first thing to think about is, well, who should worry about this? And as an initial note, you may be the kind of taxpayer who has a bank account, but you don't really want to share that account information with the IRS. So this is something that you need to be aware of. You may be in a situation where if you're eligible to receive a refund, you may have to share your bank account information with the IRS or see if you can claim some sort of an exception. But really the main group that needs to be worried about this change are people who, like Susan had mentioned, people who are what we call unbanked. And many of those folks are people who are our clients. These are low income taxpayers who are eligible for the earned income credit and child tax credits and who regularly receive tax refunds each year. But it doesn't just stop at them. There are others as well. There are people who are disabled, mentally impaired. There are those people who are living abroad where the banking system is just different. And victims of domestic violence. And finally, people who have strong religious convictions where they're opposed to using banks. All of these people are unbanked and they could be badly affected by by this change. And so what we think will happen, but what we really don't know for sure how it's going to happen, is we think that there are going to be some exceptions that are applied to taxpayers, and we don't know exactly how those exceptions are going to look. One thing we think might happen is that the tax return itself for the 2025 tax return may provide a way for claiming an exception. I'm not too optimistic that we're going to see an actual change to the 2025 tax return, but that is possible. The other possibility is that if you don't have a bank account and you file your return, the IRS may send you a letter explaining to you how you can get your refund, how you might be able to claim an exception to this rule, or maybe just asking you for, again, for your bank account information. And finally, it's possible that the IRS may adapt its Where's My Refund tool to allow you to go into that tool and enter in your account information, or from that tool, try to claim an exception, say based on hardship because you're low income, or you're disabled, or you're living abroad, or something like that. But we really don't know for sure how this is going to be implemented and what the exceptions, if any, are going to look like. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Susan, who can talk a little bit more detail about what you can possibly do at this point before the 2026 filing season sneaks up on us.
Yeah, that gives a good having it now, RG, as an accountant and talking to us about it gives us time to do things, to try things. And the first thing, of course, if you want to, is just get a bank account. Go ahead and use this as the opportunity to get a bank account. If you have some of those convictions, like RG was talking about, that you don't want to get a bank account, I'm going to give you some other ideas that you can use. Um, FDI, there's some non-traditional banking options that the FDIC has been working on, and one of them is called FDIC Bank On. And when you go onto the site, you have an opportunity to search it and see banks that are in your area that they have vetted. So these are banks that don't have overdraft fees, they don't have insufficient fund fees, they have low minimum deposits. And in order to get this certification and be on the FDIC Bank On website, they have they have protections for you as you're opening an account. And there's places that you can go to locally, and I checked in Arkansas, and there's a lot, and there's some really good and responsible banks that are listed on that walk in. But some people just don't feel comfortable in a bank or won't have time. So there's online applications. There's 34 banks on that you can do everything online. You may need your driver's license and some other documents to finish the online opening of an account, but you certainly can do that. And of those 34 that were listed, I saw some good local banks that you might want to investigate. And I would advocate having, if you, I love the fact that you can do everything online, but I would also advocate having a local brick and mortar if it's in your community, if possible, in case there are problems. There's someone that you can go to and talk to about it. Um, and what that last, there was one other thing in the slide. Oh, be prepared to ask for an exception. If you get up to the filing deadline and you're ready to, you can't, for whatever reasons, you're just locked out of the banking system, be prepared to ask for an exception. There's also a tool called mycreditunion.gov, and I went on that and worked with that. And I really advocate for this presentation for you to consider getting both, getting a bank, even by opening it with from FDIC Bank On. I think it really looks good for those of us that are in the lower income. And then mycreditunion.gov, credit unions provide lower cost loans for cars and homes. And a lot of people that get their refund, they may want to buy a car when they get their refund. And if you've already opened your credit union account, you'll qualify as a member to get a loan from them. And that cuts out a lot of scams and stuff that we see in the consumer marketplace. If you're working with a credit union, you've got a relatively low interest loan. You don't even have to deal with financing when you're shopping for items that you need that are going to cost more. So I would advocate doing both of these. And RG and I explored for this presentation some of the fintech options. And right now we're not recommending any of those options because they're not regulated. The refund checks that RG was talking about tend to be rather large and they're not insured. So if something were to happen to that fintech, you wouldn't be able to get your money back. And there's no infrastructure in place for you as a taxpayer if you're trying to um, you have a problem when your refund goes into one of these accounts, for you to out to anybody and get any resolution. And when I was talking to RG, what would the IRS do in a situation like that where they give you a check and it goes to a fintech, which we talk about like a Chime or a Cash App, and yet there's a problem and you can't get access to it. How much would that delay, or what would you do as a taxpayer at that point?
It can delay it quite a
Okay.
while, and
Okay.
there is a procedure that we can follow that all taxpayers can follow called a
Mm-hmm.
refund trace procedure.
Oh,
But it is additional paperwork,
okay.
additional delay, and even if it runs smoothly, you are looking at some amount of delay in getting a
Okay.
refund that may be very important to you and your family.
That's right. So I would say if those things are not options for you with a bank or a credit union, be prepared to claim an exception.
All right. Well, thank you. We're almost done. I think one final note that I will add is that in the same way that the IRS has now made a change to how it is paying out refunds to taxpayers, that they want to do it all by direct deposit or as much of it as they can. It's possible that in the future we will see a change in how taxpayers are allowed to pay amounts due if they owe the IRS. If you are a taxpayer who has in the past sent in, say, a check, um, the IRS may end that practice as well, or try to end that practice of paying, of allowing taxpayers to pay by check, and they may also want those payments to the IRS to be done electronically. So that's another thing to be mindful of and to
Okay.
be on the lookout for. We're not there yet, but it is something that we think could happen or that the IRS might try to implement. But I thank everyone today for watching our session. You have our contact number there here at our last slide, and I'd like to thank Susan for presenting with me on this one today. And if anyone needs to follow up with Legal Aid of Arkansas, follow up with Susan or follow up with me, please give us a call or contact us. Thank you.
Thanks, Sergeant.